Tony Salvata, and this is the Interfaith Mystic. Today we'll talk about oneness, we'll sing a song, and learn a meditation too. So what is oneness? Oneness is the experience that everything is connected in an ineffable God. And most of us have experienced oneness in this life through loving someone, experiencing love. When we see a beautiful sunset and lose ourselves in that, or lose ourselves in a song, or in doing something that we love to do, then we are experiencing oneness. There's two ways that we perceive in this life. One way is duality. It's called duality, and that is the common perception that we have from childhood through adulthood. And that involves multiplicity and the world of opposites. And when we experience ourselves as separate from everything else. The other perception is non-duality, and that is when we feel connected to everything else. We experience oneness, non-duality, and the interconnectivity of everything. And duality is a true perception. There are many non-dual teachers today that say that duality is an illusion. But it is not. It's a true perception, and it's important for navigating this world, the physical world. But there is the other reality of non-duality, which is oneness and interconnectivity, and it's important to bring both of those perceptions together to make our lives more complete and less stressful. We have spiritual teachings throughout our history that teach us about non-duality or oneness. One of them is called nowness, and it's very popular today to bring your attention into the present moment now, not to be in the future or the past. Another one is called silence or stillness, silence of mind, of our thoughts, and going beyond our thoughts and our emotions to a peaceful, silent, still place. Another teaching is self-inquiry, where we go through body, mind, spirit, and we know who we are, and we find our true self. So these are some of the ways of accessing oneness. There's a history of oneness also. It goes far back. It could be maybe when we first became human beings. When, let's say, what does that mean? Maybe it's when self-awareness came into existence. There's a story, the Garden of Eden story, and it might have something to do with self-awareness and when we came into duality. And there are these stories that we will discuss. We don't have to take the literal interpretation of them, but there are deeper meanings in them. So let's go a little deeper into the Garden of Eden. One interpretation of the Garden of Eden is the garden as the garden of oneness with God. And there we have Adam and Eve, and they are told not to eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That tree can also be seen as the tree of duality, because what happens? They eat the apple, they realize they are naked, they run around, they try to find some fig leaves to cover themselves up. This is duality. They realize that they are naked. Also, what comes into existence is good and evil, life and death, their own mortality, multiplicity, a separateness, and they're kicked out of the Garden of Eden. So this is, before they were kicked out, they were in oneness with God. And that, when they ate that apple from the tree, could have been the beginning of self-awareness, metaphorically. We can go into the story of Abraham. Abraham, or whoever it was who first came up with the understanding that there's one God, or God is one, or oneness, was an evolution in our spirituality. So Abraham's father had idols, physical idols of gods in his house. Abraham destroyed all of them, teaching us not to worship physical idols. But it could have also been the seed or the beginning of understanding that God is beyond concepts also, beyond our words and our language. Language is a tool of duality. Language and words cannot touch God. So here we have the understanding of oneness or one God with Abraham. We can move on to Moses when he climbs Mount Sinai and encounters the burning bush as God. God tries to communicate to Moses, and the first communication is very abstract. It had to do with the tree of life, back in the Garden of Eden, the tree of life, to bring back oneness. So God teaches Moses about the Sephiroth. And the Sephiroth are, we have our normal five senses, physical senses, but there are more senses that we have. And this is what God was trying to teach Moses about on top of Mount Sinai. So the Sephiroth, there are lower Sephiroth, middle Sephiroth, and upper Sephiroth. Today we'll concentrate on the upper Sephiroth, and you have Hakma and Bina at either side of the head, and they're teaching us about wisdom, understanding, knowledge, information, intellect, imagination, intuition. And you bring all these together into, let's say, the third eye position from the chakras. I think we all know where the third eye is. There's, in the Tree of Life, there's an understanding in that same location called dot, D-A-A-T, where you bring that all together into oneness. Understanding, you start to understand what oneness and non-duality is all about. And then, so God is also trying to teach Moses about Keter, which is the crown Sephiroth at the top of our heads, And that is also oneness, where we bring everything outside of us and everything inside of us together. And so God is also trying to teach Moses about Ein Sof, infinite nothingness, can be interpreted as infinite no-thingness, beyond conceptualization. We can relate that to today. We know about pre-Big Bang. Before the Big Bang, what was there? There was no space-time, so how can you conceptualize that? And although God was not teaching Moses about that on top of Mount Sinai, he was trying to teach him about Ein Sof, infinite nothingness. So these are, this is the communication that God was trying to teach Moses about oneness, how to understand non-duality. So Moses starts to go down the mountain, bring it to his people, this information. And halfway down the mountain, he sees that his tribes are worshiping a golden calf, a physical idol of God that they made, dancing around and worshiping it. And Moses realizes that they are not going to understand this tree of life teaching. So he goes back up the mountain and asks God for something more easily understood. So God gives Moses the Ten Commandments, and he takes that down to his people. But he reserves the original tree of life teachings for people that are older and wiser and can understand that type of knowledge. So there you have on top of Mount Sinai, a oneness with God and Moses. We can move into the chakras. They were also developed around the same time, maybe 2,000-3,000 years ago. And in the Vedas and the Upanishads, they start to teach you about the chakras, which are also similar to the Sephiroth. They are sensors that open us they're openings onto oneness throughout our body and outside of us, inside of us, all around us. And in the chakras, we also have the heart chakra, where we experience love in this life. But we also have the third eye, as I mentioned before, understanding oneness and non-duality, and then the crown chakra, also oneness with everything. We can talk about the Tao also, Lao Tzu, and the important saying from the Tao is that the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. You could substitute God for Tao. The God that can be spoken is not the eternal God. The symbol of the Tao is a circle, and there's a wave in the middle, and yin and yang on either side of the circle. So you're bringing together opposites into oneness. From the Tao, we could talk about Buddha. Buddha was said to have learned about the beginnings of the chakras and that information and sort of transcended it, came up with his own teachings, Nirvana being one of them. What is Nirvana? The extinction of the ego, the small self, to reveal Nirvana, emptiness. What is it? Emptiness, nothingness. It's hard to describe it. It could even be a fullness, but yet here we have that understanding that words cannot touch it. It is something beyond that. But it does incorporate interconnectivity of everything, oneness, and ineffability also. Jesus also was a non-dual teacher. It's not very well known or discussed, but we have the 4 original Gospels of Christianity in which Jesus teaches about love. And love comes from oneness. But we also have other Gospels and scriptures that were considered heretical and hidden away, buried in caves, some in Egypt, There was a discovery in 1945, the Nag Hammadi findings, and the Gospel of Thomas was found in those findings. And in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, when you make the two into one, when you make above like below, when you make the inside like the outside and the outside like the inside, the male and the female one and the same, then you will enter the kingdom. This kingdom is oneness. So it could be said that Jesus knew about non-duality and was a teacher of non-duality and oneness. Mohammed also, in his night journey, he ascends the seven heavens. Could have been like the chakras or the Sephirah, coming into oneness. He encounters the lote tree. The lote tree is a symbol for going beyond concepts, sort of like ineffable. There are so many beautiful mystics throughout our history. Rumi is one of my favorites. I have a video where I put music to Rumi's words, and I sing a song. If you have time, check that out. Let's do a oneness meditation right now. So the words to this meditation are, Holy One is all. And we start in our heart chakra, where we bring love that we have experienced in this life into our heart. And then we go down into our lower chakras, Sephirah, where we we bring love into family, community, Mother Earth, even the sun and the solar system. Holy, that's Li. One, we come back to the heart, love, and we end that round in our third eye, the second half of one on the third eye location. So we do that round 3 times, and then the 4th round, the words are is all. We start is above us, outside of us, the universe, the ineffable. And that is, and we come back into our heart chakra, is also. Bring love back into our heart chakra. And then end at the crown chakra or Sephirah, where we bring everything outside of us and everything inside of us together.